and welcome to episode 3 of the Gold Country Media Sports Jam. I'm Jordan.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Matt.
We had a huge weekend across high school football again. I mean, some upsets, some comebacks, just great weekend, a few barn burners. First things first, where's everyone coming from today?
I'm right back here in my humble abode, same place as last week. I'm doing good. I'm awake. Everything's good.
Matt, what about you?
Right here in the Folsom Telegraph office.
All right. I'm from home today. My girlfriend got her wisdom teeth out, so I had to take her to and from the appointment. So I am in our office at the house today. How's everyone's weekend? Anyone do anything fun?
Went and saw an A's Yankees game on Sunday, and the Yankees put out what looked to be a World Series type roster lineup out there. Of course, Judge was in the lineup. Stanton was back for his first game. I expected the Yankees to blow them out like 8-2 because the A's did not have really a good lineup out there. But the A's got it done. They beat the Yankees 4-1. They usually do a pretty good job against the Yankees in Oakland. And I was hoping Judge would hit his 50th. I was actually out in left field to try to grab a home run ball. But of course, he hit it the day after the game I went to when he was playing the Angels. But no, I mean, hey, I'm never going to complain about the A's being the Yankees. That was great. So I was happy to go see that.
Hey, Moneyball, baby. What about you?
Good movie. I just hung out at home. It's hot out, and I'm a homebody, so I just relaxed at home.
All right, awesome. Well, we were at some games on Friday night, or Thursday and Friday. I think all of us hit 2 games last week. Aaron, let's start with you. Kind of talk to me a little bit about the games you were at last week.
Yeah, so first off, Thursday I was at Whitney covering the Whitney Wood Creek game. Pretty much just came down to Whitney being able to take advantage of Wood Creek's mistakes. Wood Creek did strike first. They got a field goal pretty early there in the first quarter. Right towards the end of the half, Wood Creek missed a field goal. And, I feel like high school football is really a lot about momentum, and the momentum just immediately swung the other direction. Trevor Hargis, the quarterback for Whitney, was able to make a big run and then connected with a big play to Phoenix Rose. And then they got a touchdown right before the end of halftime. Beginning of the second half, the very first play on the opening kickoff, Wood Creek fumbles it. Whitney recovers, and Whitney's able to go down, score a touchdown. Lorenzo Young rushed that in for Whitney. Wood Creek went on their next 2 offensive drives, 2 turnovers on downs, one at the 3-yard line and another one in the red zone. And Whitney was able to take advantage of that. They brought it down the field, and Isaiah Bickham, their running back, had a 39-yard rushing touchdown that basically put the game to bed. Wood Creek did get a touchdown late on a connection from their junior quarterback, Austin Katapotis, to Joey Nielsen. So the final score was 21-10 in that one. I think Wood Creek's defense did show that they had a lot of heart in that game. Whitney has got some really good playmakers, and I expect Whitney to be a force. I mean, we'll talk about this in a bit, but everybody in the SFL right now is just so stacked that really anything could happen. Phoenix Rose, as I mentioned earlier for Whitney, he's got 5 offers already from Pac-12 schools, and he's only a junior, so he's a heck of a player for them. I was really happy with what I saw. Whitney has a big game this week against Clovis, so that'll be interesting to see if they can win that one, because Clovis had their number last year. So that was Thursday. And then on Friday, as I mentioned last week, I am the announcer over at Lincoln. So I covered Lincoln versus Yuba City, and this proved to be one heck of a ball game. I expected Yuba City to take it, but Lincoln showed a lot of heart. Yuba City was up 21-0 at halftime. The Zebras got nothing going offensively. I think they had a total of about 30 yards of offense and 1 first down in the first half. And then the second half, they just came out firing. Seam route to Dylan Fear from Thomas Mukai for a 42-yard score. The Zebras forced a turnover. Jace Ordaway forces a fumble. It's recovered by Michael Dallas. Ryan Henning, their top running back, takes that down and scores a touchdown. It's a 1-score game. Lincoln forces a turnover on downs near midfield. And for the first of 2 times that night, Mukai connected with Isaac Gomez. So they were able to get all 21 points back in the third quarter alone. Lincoln gets the ball on their next offensive drive, misses a field goal. Yuba City comes down, scores a touchdown. However, they missed the extra point. Isaac Gomez actually blocks that extra point. So it's 27-21, and the Zebras have roughly about 3.5 minutes to go. They take it down to about the 45-yard line, and it's 4th and 10. So they take a timeout. Coming out of the timeout, they need a first down. Huge play. Mukai flips it over to Sean Cotton, who passes it downfield to go to who was it? Hayden Dotson. Hayden Dotson caught that ball near about the 12-yard line. Huge play. Everybody was going crazy. And then Mukai connected with Gomez again for the touchdown to win the game 28-27. Also, and I'll get into this later too with Athlete of the Week, but Peyton Raper for defense linebacker had a huge game. I'm really interested to see how Lincoln plays this week against Casa Roble. These next 2 games are going to be really interesting to see how Lincoln kind of may match up against Placer later in the season, because Lincoln these next 2 weeks faces Casa Roble and then Roseville, which are the first 2 opponents that Placer faced to start the season. So definitely some exciting ball games I got to see on Thursday and Friday night.
Awesome, Matt. I know your Thursday game wasn't as exciting. Your Friday game was a good game, 2 of the top teams in NorCal. Tell me about those games.
Yeah, Thursday was Vista's home opener against Ponderosa. It was totally one-sided. From the opening kickoff, Vista returned it for Cruz Santero returned it for a 82-yard touchdown, and it was all Vista from then on. Dominated the game on both sides of the ball. Thomas Keegan and Marco Romero had touchdown runs, as did Matt Long, who was a wide receiver, but he carried one time for 25 yards and a score. And Johnny Kett, quarterback, 8 out of 11 for 181 and 3. All 3 touchdowns and 130 of those yards went to Matt Long, who ended with 6 touches and 4 scores. So it was a great game for him. And Vista, just dominated. It was great to see for them because, they got crushed by Manteca week 1. So for them to come back and rebound like that was big for their season. So it was a nice win for them. And then Friday night, I was at Folsom High and watched the Sarah and Folsom game, and that was it was a good game. I mean, final score 17-12, but Folsom lost, and they didn't play particularly well. Penalties are a huge problem. They had nine penalties for 70 yards, and a lot of them came at bad times or on plays where they got positive yardage, they had to back them up, and they had a couple of false start penalties, so they just couldn't get out of their own way. Just a lot of penalties, and the 2 big plays of the game or play series of the game. Late in the first half, second quarter, Sarah had the ball driving down the field, and Folsom had 2 penalties, 2 defensive penalties, a face mask, and then like 2 plays later they had a targeting penalty called on them, and then, Sarah got the ball at the 25-yard line. Next play, touchdown pass. And that gave them a 14-10 lead at halftime with 6 seconds to go in the half. So anytime there's a late score like that in a close game, it's a heartbreaker for the team that gives it up. And then the other time, late in the game, fourth quarter, Folsom's driving down for the potential, game tying score, or if they went for 2, a game winning score, and they fumbled the ball inside the 5-yard line, and Sarah recovered in the end zone. So that pretty much put an end to that game. But it was a good game, close game, competitive game. I'm glad I saw a close game for the first time in 3 games. But, as far as I'm concerned, wrong team won. So.
All right. Yeah. When you play a team like Sarah that's that good, I mean, and Folsom knows better than anyone, especially with the Sarahs and De La Salles, I mean, you can't really make mistakes. Otherwise, they will exploit that. Right.
And, penalties, 2 big turnovers. Folsom made the mistakes. And after the game, before the coach even addressed the team, team leader, senior wide receiver Rico Flores stepped up and said, "Hey, this is on us. We lost this game. They didn't beat us, and we got to be better." So I'm really interested to see their game this week to see how they rebound.
I had a similar situation Thursday night where I was at. That was Placer and Roseville. It was another crazy game for Placer. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead. It really looked like Roseville was just outgunned and outmatched in the first quarter. Then about 25 seconds left in the first, Brendan Graydon scores his first of 3 rushing touchdowns to make it 14-7. Placer goes down and marches down, and then all of a sudden makes it 21-7, and Roseville scores 20 of the next 23 points and ends up taking actually a 27-24 lead with just 3 minutes to go. And for the second time in 2 varsity starts, junior quarterback Josh Craycraft had to lead a game-winning drive for Placer. Costa Alexic ends up punching it in with 10 seconds left on an 8-yard run, gives Placer a 30-27 lead. They end up winning it, but it was a similar story for Roseville that Folsom had. It was penalties that really shot them in the foot. I mean, Roseville had 80 yards of penalties. They allowed Placer to get, 80, basically drive 80 yards down the field in the final one. A roughing the passer penalty was there. Roseville had 3 touchdowns that were called back due to holds. And I mean, all 3 of them were pretty blatant holds. And then they also had a turnover on downs in the red zone. They also threw a pick in scoring position. So, I mean, a 3-point loss. And, a team like Placer, they're used to being in shootouts and they are poised in close games, but you can't be turning the ball over on downs in the red zone. You can't be squandering scoring opportunities and giving your opponent free yards and expect to come out on top. And that was kind of the difference in this one. I mean, Graydon still had an incredible game for Roseville, 147 yards through the air, 11 carries, 111 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I mean, Aaron, I know we kind of talked about it a little bit. He looked like Johnny Manziel out there. Like it was actually incredible to watch. And he really put that team on his back. His receiver, Chris O'Neill, I believe he had 6 receptions, something like 109 yards too. So he had a pretty solid game. It was a great game up in Placer. Costa Alexic, 9 carries, 120 yards. Great game. Jaden Suggs and Baylor Kelly each had a touchdown as well. I think Suggs had 78 yards. Kelly had 76. It was something like that. So the Placer rushing attack has really been on fire lately. Friday, my game was a lot less exciting, but I did get to see exciting quarterback play again. Eldorado just pummeled Bear River, to be frank. It was 38-0. Star of the game was Eldorado's quarterback, Anthony Mahaffey, who had 379 yards and 3 touchdowns. He found Ryan Wilson 9 times for 138 yards and a touchdown. Devin Hurst 8 times, 132 yards and 2 scores. Even the running game was going for Eldorado. Running back Justin Lee had 23 carries, 107 yards, and 2 scores. But the defense for Eldorado was really the story in this one. They held Bear River to only 104 yards on offense. Bear River did take a big hit right before that game. Anders Torgerson last week against Kennedy. He ended up having a knee injury, and he is a star running back, linebacker, and kicker for Bear River. 3 pretty important positions, and you lose them all in one guy. Good news, though, is it looks like Torgerson is not as injured as we previously thought. They were afraid there was some structural damage. Now it looks like it may be a situation where he can actually be back by league play. I think Bear River's a lot better than that score showed. I think it was just one of those games where kind of the wheels fell off the bus early and it became a snowball effect and, just went from bad to worse. But I think both Bear River and Roseville teams are on the losing ends of that. I think they definitely would love a rematch of it because I think you could expect a closer game from Bear River and a win from Roseville potentially if you got a rematch. Either way, though, it was very telling. I think we learned a lot from our teams on Friday night and Thursday night. Bear River, like I said, they're a better team than they showed, but they don't have a ton of depth. And that's something that's going to catch up to them. Another team that I kind of learned some stuff about, Forest Hill, they've lost a lot more than I realized. I mean, we knew what they lost, but 0-2 start, they've really struggled running the ball against Modesto Christian, Mesa Verde. When this young team gets more experience, we'll see how things go. But it's going to be a tough go for Forest Hill kind of as they get going. A couple other things I learned. Del Oro's defense is dominant. I mean, another defensive score this week, a 34-7 victory over Del Campo. The running game needs to get going more, but they're going to be solid. Colfax, Jason Stowers got his first win. Running back Malachi Thompson had 150 yards on 24 carries. A great game by then. Colfax kind of proved that they can beat the bigger schools in Woodland, the team that eliminated them last year. And one thing I learned, it's not necessarily about Placer, but about the FVL. The FVL race is going to be a little tighter than we realized. I think Placer is still a favorite in that, but Lincoln and West Park are right there on their tails. Aaron, kind of talk about that and what you learned from Lincoln and some of your other teams this week.
Yeah, so Lincoln, with the win they had on Friday, they showed me that they have the potential to defeat any team if they play like they did in the second half. I was up in the press box and I was talking to my spotter and I was literally saying at halftime, this looks like a 5-5 team. And then at the end of the game, I'm saying this team could go 8-2 and they can beat anyone. So I mean, the thing is going forward, obviously, I don't expect them to play nearly as bad as they did in the first half, and I don't expect them to play nearly as good as they did in the second half. But I do think that this team is very talented. I could see them going 5-0 before going into league play. I really do think it's going to create an interesting dynamic with Placer, West Park, and Lincoln. Placer had an early bye week this week, so they'll be back on the field this week at Pleasant Grove. So that'll be interesting to see if they can keep up their offensive firepower from week one. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how that dynamic keeps playing out. Like I said, I think we're going to get a really good indication of how Lincoln will match up against a team like Placer with these next 2 weeks against teams that Placer played. Some other teams, Granite Bay's offense has a ton of firepower. They put up 74 this last week against Davis. Carter Jackson, the sophomore, came into his own with 152 yards and 2 touchdowns rushing. This is with CJ Herring still out. They also have a freshman, Isaiah Ine, had 54 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. I know he had an interception. I want to say it was an interception returned for a touchdown, but he had at least had an interception in the game. So yeah, Granite Bay is definitely going to be a tough team to face, and I'm interested to see how that game goes this week against Vista. I believe that game's actually now on Thursday. Also, with how poor Antelope played against Elk Grove, I want to say they lost that game by 30, along with the Yuba City loss to Lincoln. Roseville, especially if Graydon can keep up what he's been doing, they could easily be a contender in the CPC, and I expect them to handle their business this week against Laguna Creek.
Matt, we kind of talked about Vista right there. Throwing it over to you. What'd you learn about your teams this week?
Well, again, Vista coming off a poor week one against a very good team, but they didn't show well, and I know they wanted to. So for them to rebound and beat Ponderosa easily, I mean, that just showed they got some moxie, and they're not going to just roll over. And they have high expectations, and they came out and showed that they can. They're a good football team. So, of course, the big thing is, can they do it again this week against Granite Bay? That remains to be seen, but a good start, good step in the right direction for them last week. Folsom, hey, they've got their toughest schedule they've probably ever had. And last week just shows, hey, like you mentioned in your game, if you turn the ball over and have penalties, you're not going to beat good teams. And I think we learned that. Like Folsom's, they're used to go. I mean, I know last year they lost 3 league games, or 2, but they're used to being 9-0, 10-0, 9-1. They might have some losses this year if they play like that. So they got to clean that up. I did not go to Oak Ridge's game because I can't be 2 places at once. But what I learned about Oak Ridge is they're for real. I mean, they stomped Vacaville 62-0. They're 2-0. They haven't allowed a point this season. And they're spreading the ball around on offense, so they're gonna make some waves in the SFL for sure.
And were there any performances that kind of stood out to you from any of your players this week?
Well, we mentioned Matt Long in the Vista game. Folsom, Rico Flores had a good game. He had 8 catches for 135 yards. For Folsom's sake, it would have been nice if he could have gotten the end zone, but that's not his fault. That's just he had a productive game. Oak Ridge wide receiver Sebastian Sutton had 5 catches for 133 yards and 1 TD, and he also intercepted a pass for a touchdown. Intercepted a pass and returned it for a TD. So he had a nice game for the Trojans.
All right.
You got to get a photo of you and.
What was that, Aaron?
I was just saying you got to get a photo of you and Matt Long, so that way people aren't confused whenever you talk about his name that you're not writing about yourself.
I'll try to get one for next week.
Matt's not tooting his own horn when he's talking about Matt Long. Now, I don't know if there's some under the table NIL deal that you guys have the same name, so you pump them up a little bit, but we do need to let our viewers know that, Matt's not just narcissistic and tooting his own horn out there.
No relation.
Yeah. All right, Aaron, what about you? What performances stood out to you? Well, I
mentioned Isaac Gomez, who had the 2 touchdowns and the blocked extra point on that last Yuba City town. Exactly what Peyton Raper did this last week. I know I mentioned his name. He had 22 tackles in the game. That's something that you'd rarely going to see. It's just unheard of. 10 of them were solo, 12 were assist. With his 22 tackles plus his 9 from last week, I was looking at Max Preps yesterday. He is currently leading the Sac Joaquin section in tackles after that game. He was everywhere on the field. A huge performance from him. Rockland had a few players that played really well. Mason Silva had 73 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Maverick Collins had 4 receptions for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. For Roseville, a couple other players, Jaden Kiersey had 11 tackles and a sack. You mentioned Chris O'Neill, who had over 100 yards receiving. Oakmont got their first win against Foothill. They play Davis this week, so it'll be interesting to see if they can pick up a second win. Alex Romero Stafford had 8 tackles in the win against Foothill. Valley Christian Academy, small school over in Roseville, they're 2-0, and they're led by Chase Clary. He had 4 touchdowns, a 41-yard rushing touchdown, and then 3 receiving touchdowns of 25, 65, and 69 yards. And this is after he started the season in week 1 with 187 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's looking like he could be the Brady Myers of last year. And Valley Christian, I'll talk about them a little later, but they could be in for something special this season if they can keep up what they've been doing.
Yeah, Valley Christian, I remember we were talking, saying it's important to build, try to get that 500 record. They're 2-0, potentially staring at 3-0. So, hey, they're making us eat our words right now. So good for you guys, Valley Christian.
I also wanted to say, getting out of the football realm real quick, I wanted to give a shout out. I used to run cross country, and I know cross country season's in full effect. For South Placer this week, I actually picked for my athlete of the week, Rockland High senior Devin Pereira. He's won his first 2 races of the season, first being the Sierra Invitational 2-mile race that was the Saturday before last, so that'd be 10 days ago now. And then on Saturday at the Oak One Invitational at Maidu Park, he also finished first, and he ran under a 5-minute mile pace in the 4K. And I struggled running under 6-minute miles when I was in cross country. So it's very impressive to see what he's been able to do. So congratulations to him. He's my athlete of the week. I know Graydon also played really well for Roseville, but I have to give it to Pereira for how impressive his first 2 weeks have been.
Hey, works for me. Matt, you had a pretty impressive cross country runner down your way, didn't you?
Yeah. Again, this was 10 days ago at the Sierra, or however many days ago, at the Sierra Invitational. Oak Ridge freshman Adriana Ingaragiola. It was her first ever high school cross country race, and she only started running a few months ago. So it's not like she ran, middle school. And this was her first race ever. And she, out of 65 other freshmen, she finished first in 12 minutes and 14.7 seconds. And it was her 14th birthday as well. And it was the second fastest female time of the day through over 297 females who ran that course. So it was a great performance for her, and she's my athlete of the week.
It's interesting to see how well she performed too, because that kind of gives me vibes of Riley Chamberlain over at Del Oro, who just graduated. She was a 4-time state runner. She made it to the state 4 years in a row. Also was really dominant in track. And if she's able to keep, if your athlete's able to keep that up, it's going to be very impressive to watch her over the next 4 years, I'd imagine.
I just talked to her briefly, and she's very motivated. So, and Coach Rob Fairley said she has absolutely no fear. So I think she's got lots of potential to, I don't want to start comparing to Riley Chamberlain, but I mean, yeah, she's got a lot of potential.
And speaking of 2-sport athletes, my player of the week is actually going to be another 2-sport guy. He is a soccer player that got converted over to Colfax's football team. That's Cannon Tomlin. He actually scored every one of Colfax's 17 points in its win over Woodland. He had a receiving touchdown, rushing touchdown, a field goal, and 2 extra points. I believe he had a 75, one of his touchdowns, like 75-yard. It was kind of the backbreaker in the game. I mean, anytime you score literally every single one of your team's points, I mean, you can kind of go to your teammates and be like, hey, I literally carried you guys that game. I don't know. I mean, the stats don't lie. If you had high school fantasy football, I'm just going to say Cannon Tomlin would have had a great performance for you guys. But just a great job by him. Other impressive performance. So Costa Alexic, like I said, 9 rushes, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. Malachi Thompson of Colfax had 24 rushes, 150 yards. Didn't find the end zone, though. I don't know how you go 150 yards and don't crack the goal line, but still a great performance from the junior there. Placer punter Jackson Ramirez actually had several big punts, including one that pinned Roseville inside the 2-yard line. So shout out to him for that. And then Thomas Graham of Del Oro, he had 2 interceptions, including a 75-yard pick 6. But kind of like I said, Colfax's Tomlin, the most impressive athlete for me from the area that week. And speaking of Colfax, that's where I'm actually going to be on Friday night. As of now, it's the only game I'll be at this week. But as we know, schedules can always change. It's Colfax's home opener against Galt. Falcons are going to be eager to return to those friendly confines at home after beating Woodland, who eliminated them from playoffs last year. Galt's coming in down 2-0, but they've kind of had some easier opponents. They played Franklin of Stockton and Highlands, who are not necessarily strong football programs. I think the Falcons have kind of found their stride. They're going to use that ground and pound running of Thompson, the explosive playability of Tomlin this one. I also think Amadeus Alcala and Kenny Goal and Blake Ashlock are going to be big in the trenches in this one. And I've actually got Colfax winning 31-10, even though Galt's coming in at 2-0. Falcons are going to hand them their first loss of the season. Aaron, what about you? Where are you going to be this week?
So I'll be at 2 weeks this week again, but instead of it being a Thursday and Friday, it'll be a Friday and Saturday. Well, actually, I'll be at a game on Thursday, too. I'll be announcing Lincoln's freshman game. But in terms of coverage-wise, I'll be at the Lincoln Catholic game on Friday. I'll start with that. You know, the Rams picked up their first win this last week by dominating Wood 50-0 after losing to Placer week 1. And, you know, while sophomores Elijah Huddle and Connor Campbell can definitely pose some problems along with Daniel Renner on defense, Zebras have all the momentum in the world right now coming back off of that comeback win. If they play anywhere close like they did in that second half, they should go 3-0. I'm going to go Lincoln 30, Castle Roble 21. For Saturday, you know, I mentioned Valley Christian a little bit earlier, and I want to see their home opener at Highlands against Johnson. You know, Valley Christian went 4-6 last year for the first time, or were a 4-win team last year for the first time since 2008. And they're attempting to go 3-0 right now for the first time since 2003. So first time in 19 years that they can get the win on Saturday. I want to see if Clary, along with the talent of Chris Donkor, Roderickson Williams, and others can grab this win. If so, this Lions team, I think, is going to be something special. They lost last year to Johnson 40-26. I think this year's squad definitely has potential to be better. It's going to be a close one. I'm going to go Valley Christian 34, Johnson 32.
All right. Should be a good one. Matt, what about you? Where are you going to be this week?
Yeah, Vista's game was moved to Thursday again, so I get to see two this week. So Thursday I'll be at Granite Bay. You know, it's time for them to step up and beat a really good team. Last year they lost to Capital Christian in league, the early league loss. They lost to Sheldon. They lost to Granite Bay, and then they lost in the playoffs. So, but they've been building. They've been knocking on the door, and I just feel this is a big game for them. I feel, you know, if they play their best game, they could win this game. And they like to go for 2 points. They don't do it all the time, but they do like to do it. And it's my one of the teams that I cover, so I'm picking Vista to upset Granite Bay. I'm going 29-27 or 29-28. And then Friday I'll see Folsom. They're at home again against Edison, and just like Vista last week, Folsom has to rebound, has to play better this week. So I'm going to say they're going to beat Edison. Let's go 42-21.
All right. I like it. Confident in your teams. You know, I'll give a special shout out to, I know you guys have had volleyball kind of start up. We haven't had volleyball start up in my area as much, but it does start up tomorrow night. Colfax is hosting Placer, 2 former PVL rivals. They have no love lost for one another. I'll be at that one. It's funny, every time I'm at Placer, they're always asking how Colfax is doing in something. And every time I'm at Colfax, they always ask how Placer is doing. And you can tell students, coaches, I mean, they've got no love lost for one another. Even though they don't play every year in every sport, to those two schools and those two communities, that is still very much a rivalry. And I would actually love to see them meet up on the gridiron one of these years. I think Placer would have the upper hand, but it'd be fun to see that rivalry come back in more sports than, you know, just kind of the smaller ones.
Yeah, and I've had quite a bit of volleyball that I've been seeing over this last week. I'm doing a whole piece this week for all the teams I cover, and so I'll be at Ponderosa Rockland tonight. But some of the games I've covered, I've gotten to see Lincoln and 12 Bridges. I actually wanted to start with that. You know, these are two schools. It's for the first year for 12 Bridges in a lot of sports being a varsity team, and it made for an amazing environment Wednesday night. I went to the Lincoln 12 Bridges game. The stands were filled. I haven't seen stands for a volleyball game that packed probably besides playoffs and an Optimist game. It was really cool. Both student sections were there, very involved, chanting. 12 Bridges did lose in 3 sets, but they did also battle back in the 3rd set. Jordan Dieter of Lincoln played really good, along with Adrian Vitae. and Sarah Vandeveer served it really well. So yeah, Lincoln proved to be a very good team. 12 Bridges, is going to take a little bit of time, but I think that they've got some good young talent. I was at Del Oro last Tuesday, and they've got some good experienced talent with Allie Chandler and Luca Lathrop, who are seniors, but also some young talent with Sophia Sampson, and along with Isabella Razi, who actually has a sister on the team as well. Whitney, got to see them right before I covered the football game on Thursday. They're led by the senior leadership of Jenna Kraft and Caitlin Cochran. They both had 7 kills in their match against Bella Vista. Kraft is going to be going to CSU Monterey Bay, and Cochran's going to be going to Oregon State. They're one of the top teams in the area. I'm interested to see when it gets to league time how they match up against a team like Rockland. But last night was actually probably the most exciting game I've seen for the entire week. I got to go to a small school game. First time I've ever been to John Adams Academy. It was John Adams Academy in Western Sierra. And John Adams won the first 2 sets. Western Sierra came back and won the 3rd set. Western Sierra was up big in the 4th set. And I actually wrote on my sheet already 5th set because I thought I was going to the 5th set. Western Sierra was up 16-3. And John Adams went on a 23-8 run to win 26-24. That is by far the biggest comeback I've ever seen in a volleyball match in a set. It was very impressive and made for a really cool small school atmosphere. So I've had a fun time seeing some games. Again, I'm going to be going to Pondo, Rockland tonight, and then Wood Creek tomorrow. And yeah, there's already proven to be some good young talent and teams in the area.
All right, awesome. Matt, you catch any good volleyball games yet?
No, I haven't been to one yet. So tomorrow, Folsom High hosts Mira Loma. That'll be my first volleyball match of this year, and we'll see how the Bulldogs look this year.
All right, awesome. Anything else you guys want to add, or are we ready to wrap up the episode?
The only thing I want to add is for any of the athletes that are watching this, if you have to play outside this week, I feel for you. My heart hurts for you. I graduated in about 105-degree heat, so I know how it is, but I feel bad you're going to have to play in 104-degree heat Friday. For anybody who's playing Saturday, 108, 109. Hey, my heart's there with you guys. I hope that you guys drink a lot of water, and I hope you guys are all right.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be on the call for the American River Sac City football game on Saturday, and I think it's supposed to be 107 in Carmichael. And I'm kind of like, okay, am I bringing a portable desk fan in the press box? What's going on with that?
You calling it for American River or Sac City?
American River.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hey, one thing I want to add: Folsom might have lost to Sarah, but Folsom did not have one player lay in the field, cramp up last Friday night, and Sarah had at least 10 different times where the game had to be stopped because their players were cramping up. So kudos to the Folsom High coaching staff and the players for hydrating correctly.
Hey, they don't have that Sacramento heat in the Bay Area.
You're right.
All right, awesome. Well, this has been episode 3 of the Gold Country Media Sports Jam. I've been Jordan.
Aaron.
Matt Long.
Thank you guys for tuning in.